Another What If with part 3 to what if Deku was a shinigami, otherwise known as a Soul Reaper, based on the Bleach. So, as you guys know, this is based on the Deku will have a quirk that is based around the Zanpakuto that Shinigami use in Bleach. And yeah. Based on the fact that only one person actually commented on it, I'm going to be making it so that Deku, his Shikai form is called Blossom of the Dragon. Midori no something. But yeah, I am going to... So I have drawn each stage of Deku's Zanpakuto. And I thought I'm going to show it to you in a sec, just because of the fact that, I feel like it should be known, because I'm decently proud of it, and yeah. So, yeah, give me a second. Okay, so here it is. So the first one is the Zanpakuto I mentioned, which is, I know it's a bit blurry, but it's, it's a normal katana, and although it probably looks just like a leaf, it's actually supposed to be a sakura petal, but as I said, it's dark green. I also made that like that. So yeah, that's basically just an normal sword, but the guard looks like a sakura leaf. Then we have the Shikai, which is like a dragon head spear. So yeah, just so you know that this isn't the true form. Similar to how the red-haired guy from Bleach, I can't remember what his name is, but he had like the monkey, the snake baboon king or something, as his as his sword. Similar to how he didn't have the true name, this guy, Deku, also doesn't have the true name. So as you can see, the spear has this. It has like a little red tassel on the bottom, just to show that almost as if there was more to come there, which there is. But yeah. Also, actually, quick mention, the sword would have dragon and tiger inscripted on it, but I just didn't really know how to draw that onto here, with it still looking good. Anyway, so yeah. But yeah, that's the whole idea of how that would look. I tried to go... So, because of the fact that Midoriya / Midori means green in Japanese, I decided to go for, a green dragon. And the heavenly beast, that is the dragon, is called the Azure Dragon. However, another connotation for it would be the green dragon. In some stories, it's taken as one of the children of the Azure Dragon. So it could be the idea that actually Izuku's power is on par with the child of a mythical beast. But yeah. And then here, I have like a almost like an armor stand or something, but it's like a mannequin. As you can see, it doesn't have a proper body, but the only purpose for it was to have the upper body. I had a little area so that you could put legs on it, but those aren't necessary, honestly. This might as well be how it truly looks, but yeah. So this causes, for Izuku, his left arm to gain almost like a metal case around it in a way. As you can see from the image, the green circles are actually would be properly neon green, almost as if electricity was going through them. And as you can see, some sakura petals, 2 of them are burning, are there in the corner. So yeah, the ability of this, one of the abilities of this will be to manipulate the sakura petals and to set fire to them. Although setting fire to them costs a lot of energy, so Midoriya would probably just, set one on fire, move it close to the other ones, and But yeah, that's a quick rundown of all of these. Also, the spear has the ability to, breathe fire onto the blade. And yeah, Also, the material that the spear is made of, or spear would technically be made of, the dragon head would be made of green jade, but like a really pure green jade, and like very nicely shaved for the horn. It looks way better on my computer than it does on my phone. And like the metal itself would be silver. I don't know what you would usually use for the blade of a weapon, so you guys can tell me that, or it would just be made out of spiritual energy, and the red tassel is just fabric. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say. So yeah, I'm just gonna go back to the other image. Alright, I'm back. So yeah, the choice for the name is Midori no Dragon no Hano. So yeah, that's what I want to say. I just quickly checked the YouTube video to see if anyone else has commented, but because they haven't, yeah, that's the name I'm going for. And honestly, I do think it's the better one of the names. I don't even know why I made it up for a discussion. But yeah. Yeah, we left off last time with Izuku having like gone through the entrance test pretty easily, and with a really interesting like thing where, you know, he uses a lot of power to destroy the thing. Also, I want to explain a bit better the cultivation method he's using. So, if any of you've watched it, he's using a similar cultivation technique to the one in Blue Phoenix. If you've watched that read that cultivation light novel, you can get it on Tapas for free. Some episodes you have to pay for, but yeah, I think it's pretty good, so you should go check that out. I'm not sponsored in any way. But yeah, I do like that book. But the cultivation way is based on that. I just didn't explain it in the same way. So yeah. But like, as in like the landscape is of the Dantian is the same. However, the actual functions behind it and the abilities are different. And yeah, that was my main point. Although I say that it's similar, it's more of, you still have so unlike the other one, it goes in lower stage to middle stage to higher stage in each rank. So you start off as like a key practitioner, and then you become like a warrior, then and then like you upgrade from there. But yeah, that's my point. Although I think it's more accurately to represent it in this one as being the first stage being Zanpakuto, or like, you know, the sealed form of the Dantian. So that's the only way to access the lower Dantian. By the way, breakthroughs are really, really hard in this. So yeah, Deku won't be getting really like, he won't be at Bankai really quickly. But just so you know, by the time that there's the overhaul arc, he will have a Bankai. Just wanted to mention that. But yeah. So yeah, the first stage will be Zanpakuto, then it will be Shikai, and then it will be Bankai. So yeah. Yeah, I think that's a pretty quick and honestly summarizing way of describing it. But yeah, continuing on. Now, if I remember correctly, a week after he gets his pass, he goes back to school. However, here something interesting is going to happen. Whilst he is, you know, like walking around, he's like before the big day starts, you know, of him going to school. He'll be training and such on the beach still, just because he finds that as a comfortable place to practice and stuff. And he will break through into the middle stage of Zanpakuto. So previously he started off in the lower stage, and now he's broken through to the middle stage. And I literally just said it would be really hard, but given the amount of time he took on it, like a year, I do believe that he would have reached this point, especially since he would have probably already had a lot of energy. So yeah. His Dantian itself has become like a really fine thread. So the liquid has turned into a thread now, due to him moving to the middle stage. It's going to be like that for the rest of the time, just with different changes. and because of how pure it is, it glows, but with a green tint, just to represent the fact that he's a green dragon. But yeah, or at this point, rather a green carp. But yeah, when Deku notices this, he's like, holy shit. But yeah, the reason I'm doing this is simply because I'm going to be doing something really terrible to him in a second. So yeah, so after this happens, a massive thunderbolt, like a storm suddenly picks up near Deku, and a massive thunderbolt hits, so his blade automatically summons a reaction to this, and a thunderbolt hits the blade and courses all the way through Izuku's body. And well, I mean, I don't know like how bad it is, but I know it can kill people instantly when they have millions of volts coursing through their body. I don't know how exactly much how much lightning bolts have in them, but like around a few million, maybe billion volts of electricity going through their body. I think that's a pretty killable experience. But if any of you read Cultivation manga, you will understand that this is a part of the breakthrough period. It's usually used at the end of breakthrough, but I'm going to give it here. Simply because of how much of a power increase he's had from originally. So the way they measure strength is in like how many tons you can lift. So if Deku previously would have... Actually, I don't know what would be reasonable for this. Average tons a person can carry. £40 per mile. 40 pounds in tons? Okay, so 0.02 tons. Yeah, there might be a problem with this. Imperial ton maybe? Nope, that is not changing a single thing. So, I'm just going to do this in pounds. If the average thing a person can carry is 40, Deku, well, not being that average physically strength-wise, would already have been able to carry about, I would say, 60 or maybe 70. So now, he's able to carry about 200. Yeah. I feel like that's reasonable, and given the fact that 1 for all increases the physical strength, so naturally Izuku would go from his usual, let's say, I believe that if he was using the maximum percent, which I believe I said last episode, 10%, if he used that much 1 for all into his body, he could probably lift about 100 tons, maybe a bit more, maybe 120 tons. So I'm going to say that... No, 100 tons. So I'm going to say that, based on that fact, he can now, using a decent amount of his strength, he could probably lift around 250, 270 tons. This represents also how strong his punches are. So yeah, sorry. Sorry, I've got hay fever. Basically, I would say that getting hit by him might be equivalent to getting hit by a truck. So yeah. Now, I now slightly think that this was a bit too much of an increase. But yeah. You don't want to get hit by him. The only person who I fully assume would be able to take on one of his punches would be All Might. Like, I mean, if he punched All Might, I don't doubt that All Might would be able to survive it, or either way, like, would barely get any damage from it. But yeah, maybe Hiroshima and the other guy who like have the hard bros. Oh my god, that sounds so wrong. But Metal Boy and Stone Boy. I think that they would be able to take on a hit from him. Just because their hardening ability, especially when Kirishima does the invincible mode. I mean, I don't think anything would be able to say that. I also think that Izuku would be able to easily punch through Bakugo's explosions now. And yeah, but because of the fact that Izuku uses a katana, I mean, he could easily enough cut through Bakugo's stuff. Also, that automatically means that Stony Boy, Kirishima, I don't believe that he'd be able to be okay with getting hit by Izuku's blade. Because he could increase it with his cultivation. But maybe Metal Boy would be able to, but they have been shown to have a similar, defense, so I would say that Izuku could make a few cuts, like, a bit of a deep cut through them. However, he wouldn't be able to, properly cut them in half, I know that makes Izuku less powerful, but I'm just saying this to show you kind of how strong he is. Also show you how strong they are. Because I do believe that by the end of the training arc after the sports festival, with the cat team, basically I believe that after that point, I think that they could definitely survive one of Izuku's cuts at this point, and probably a full powered punch from All Might they'd be a-okay with. But yeah. Yeah, I don't know why I wanted to mention that, but anyway, continue on. After getting hit by a lightning bolt, Izuku finds this sudden, and he gets scared of this. He's like, "Holy I got hit by a lightning bolt! Run, boys!" Although that sounds ridiculous, but still, my point is, Izuku would be, he'd be stunned by this. He wouldn't realize that he's supposed to cultivate this, and he'd be like, he would be going crazy in his mind. He'd just be like, shit, I'm dead! I know my spiritual projection is still here, but for some reason I can't come out of it. The reason why is because there's changes coming into his Dantian, which is causing, causing this. Firstly is the whole, green, ish, slight tinted green glowing threads that the water has turned into. But also, 8 Meridian have appeared with smoke covering their entrances. And the first two open. One of them is blue, and there's a version of Izuku, similar to his quirk, or rather his Squincy powers, similar to that, who is training there, and another one in a red mist who's training there. Now, of course, the ones who've actually read Blue Phoenix will know where I'm going with this. Also, yeah, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. They've all got the dragon sign out, and dragon and tiger signs out. But yeah. And Izuku can tell that they're slowly increasing the amount of mist there, although it stops at a certain point. Izuku's then is wondering what's going on here, so he tries to he walks up to both entrances, and he kind of puts his hand in front of both of them. They're right next to each other, quite thin wall, and he puts his hands up next to both of them, and the red and blue mists both charge up towards him, and they start consuming him almost. He's he feels like he's gasping for air. He's feels like he's being strangled, And it's almost as if on one side he's got like a really large smile, sharp teeth, grinning like almost monstrous, killing intent, and then on the other side he's like calm as hell. Like, honestly, he's just ridiculously calm, and yeah, to the point where it's almost unnerving. But yeah, continuing on. And after this, Izuku is basically forcefully kicked out of his thing, and yeah, that's just a sign of him having reached this stage. A few people saw the lightning bolt and kind of started running away. A few people were still there, kind of looking like, oh my god, it hit a kid. And then they noticed him getting up, and they noticed him like sweating and just like almost as if he's like glitching in a way, because like on one side of him he's got this massive red aura, on the other side he's got a massive blue aura, almost trying to fight each other. And after 30 or so minutes, they calm down and go back inside of Izuku, who is just like feels tormented. But yeah. Some people go up to him and ask him if he's okay, and he's just like, yeah, bad situation. That lightning bolt kind of screwed with my quirk, and it went. Some stuff about it just changed. They're like, they're interested, but they can tell that they shouldn't pry because it's really weird, even for him. But yeah, after this, whilst he's walking home, somebody is following him. So previously, a woman had walked up to him and asked him what was going on. She was the one who first asked him. And then, whilst following, then she started following him as he walked away, and as he walked into an alleyway, that was like a shortcut, similar to the shortcut from that was at the school, just like thinner and stuff, and it wasn't really a bridge, it was just more like, just two walls. I don't know what they would contain, but yeah. Maybe it would be a housing or something, but yeah. And as she's walking, as soon as she goes into the alleyway, making sure no one notices, she turns into, well, herself, which is Toga! Ta-da! So yeah, Toga has noticed, how powerful he is, and she's just like, she was very interested in how, he barely even flinched when he got hit by the lightning bolt, and she sees him as like someone like, oh my god. And if you know, at this point she wouldn't have actually joined the League of Villains. She still has a complete obsession with Stain, don't get me wrong, but she wouldn't it's still pretty high. She's not grieving about him as well, and like that sort of stuff. But yeah, and yeah, so she walks up to Izuku. She puts on a wig. She changes her hair color, because I'm just gonna say that she can change like certain parts of her body so it looks like something else. If she still has some blood. And let's say she changes it black, it's like short and straight. And she says, whoa, you're the guy I saw get hit by that lightning bolt earlier. And he's surprised, and he's like, yeah? Sorry, I wanted to get home. And she's just like, she, with like a sparkle in her eyes, is like, could you show me what you were doing? What's your quirk? And she starts asking a ridiculous number of questions about the whole situation. And he was like, wait, can you hold on for a second? I'll explain. Quirk. And he just summons a sword, and he's like, my quirk allows me to summon a blade. And recently, I found out that not only is the blade itself really much more powerful than normal weapons, which I already knew, but also it has a separate part of my quirk, which, well, allows me to, like in certain manga and stories, I can cultivate. I can absorb energy around me and use it as a powerful force. For example, I was previously on the news after a slime villain attack occurred, and I blasted a ton of energy by sweeping my blade, and I cut through. I managed to change the weather with it. That's how powerful the key can get. But that's only because of adrenaline and that forcing my key to increase at a really large amount. And yeah, I reached a point where something changed in my dantian, where I store my energy, or my key. Said energy/key ended up transforming from a liquid state, which was like a giant pond inside of my dantian, to pieces of threads, and they started swirling around the center. And yeah, that all happened because the lightning hit me, which was simply due to me reaching a higher stage. It also released a ton of impurities, which is why you could see me sweating. And he didn't mention to her about the actual blue mist abilities, stranger, but he could tell that she didn't really have any bad intentions, so he just felt, okay, I can tell her this much. This was information that he was willing to give away to anyone. She was like, wow, wait, does that mean that you're, really strong? Maybe even stronger than All Might? And he's like, no, I'm not. Although my strength has increased to quite a high extent, I could probably stop moving an incoming truck at a pretty high speed, maybe 60, 80 miles per hour. And she's like, Toga EXE has crashed. But then she quickly snaps out of it, and she's like, wait, you mean you could stop a truck that fast? And Deku's like, well, considering some other people's quirks, I mean, it's actually quite weak. She's like, well, fair enough, but your quirk is specifically designed as a sword. You only have extensions, and you are that strong. And he's like, well, yeah, but that's only using a part of my power, and that would just be with my fists, or my hands, rather. And she's like, okay, you know what, just stop talking. You have me very confused. But yeah, so I now understand what happened, and especially why your blade appeared to absorb that lightning. You probably weren't that physically strong, or you weren't that, what's the word? Your body wasn't really in defense state, so you weren't really prepared to take on a thunderbolt. So that's probably why, the blade appeared to help you absorb it. And he's like, yeah, exactly. But I need to go back. Could you want my number or something if you want to talk some more? And, she's like, yeah, I'd really like that. Because, Toga did have intentions from the beginning. She could tell that he might be a very powerful hero one day, and she can tell that he's a pretty kind person just from his behaviour. So she was like, you know what? Better get into his pants. I mean, she was like, it'd be interesting to have a friend like this, because he can be very, very useful for my future life. But yeah, then he walked off, and yeah. 2 days later, Deku was out inside of a shop getting simple groceries, just a few things. When there was a robbery. Remember in the training arc that one guy who could control magnetism? He's here. Ta-da! Oh my god, this Deku is so overpowered. But yeah. basically this person has showed up. And Deku, in realization, like, he drops, his pot noodle and whatever manga or something he's holding, and he's just like, rather than drop, he like slowly puts it down really quietly, and he then realizes, wait, those two opposing forces, maybe they could benefit me here, and he decides, luckily for him, to use the blue mist. This causes him to feel like he's almost watching himself from an outside perspective. He's very cold. He's like suddenly got this stillness with him, like pure logic. He summons his... he doesn't summon his blade yet. However, he takes certain items of clothing off, which will restrict him. He also like puts down his phone or something inside of that clothing, he then like ties some fabric or something around his what was that? Around his hands, to give them more of a effect, like as in more like if someone got hit by him. So it was more like a really, really hard pillow. Well, I don't actually know what the fabric does for people, but like just so that it doesn't bruise his knuckles as much. He then moves slowly towards the person. Police are already outside. They have firearms out, because I'm going to say that this whole event was taking place for 10 minutes. I'm going to say there was a police station 10 minutes away, and yeah, they managed to get there. Nobody being killed yet, but this guy was wrecking the store. He'd already taken the money, and yeah. Deku then, still using the blue mist, which was starting to come out of his pores, he appeared behind the villain, and he tried to hit him. However, he did not know that the villain had a comrade. So the magnet guy did not know that this guy had a comrade. And it was, I believe he's called Shredder or something, the lizard guy. And basically, with his large amount of swords, he's like, this guy's not even watching his back. And he cuts the back of Deku. This causes Deku to instant react by spreading red mist throughout his entire body. This was just natural instinct. Although his wounds weren't healing, his killing intent rose to the point where normal people would be peeing their pants right now. The magnetic guy was basically just started backing away from this kid, because all of his instincts are telling him not to be near him, and the other guy is just like, I should not have done that. Firstly, how's this kid standing? Secondly, I should not have done that if I had known this. Oh my god, I'm gonna die before I meet Stain, my hero. And yeah, so after this occurs, Deku basically just he summons his blade. Skipper, I want to say Skipper for some reason. The lizard guy, basically his reaction to this is like, damn, that looks cool, but I'm on the receiving end. But yeah, the red mist is highly increasing senses of Deku, as well as his strength. And he starts grinning. His teeth start visibly sharpening. His eyes turn slightly more slit-like, and his hair starts getting almost more jagged, spikier, instead of the normal curvy. And because Izuku actually is right now unconscious. This is the red mist completely taking over. The blue mist is trying to react, because it used so much of its energy up earlier, it's unable to hold back the red mist right now. So instead it's cultivating. So yeah. And then Izuku does it. He almost forces himself to gain the Shikai state. Remember, Izuku is still unconscious, so he doesn't know about this. at all, and people outside the shop can't see this. The magnet guy has already, like, he's like running. He hid, so he can't see this. Only the lizard guy can see it. He sees a dragon spear. With green and small extra red flames coming out, coating the blade. Izuku then is just like, like, in a really deep and menacing voice. I cannot do it. Like, Batman style voice. You will now die. And yeah, he just kind of spins his spear, and basically he cuts off both of his cuts off both of the lizard guy's arms. The lizard guy starts screaming, screeching even, like, and is like, I don't want to die, stop, please. And Izuku, before he can do anything else, he gets knocked out, and a mask, like, as in his blood mist disappears, and a mask, like, starts appearing above his head, and then it just falls. And Izuku goes unconscious. Luckily for the lizard guy, he gets healed, but only one of his arms goes back to normal. The other arm is, like, missing. A few days later, he will get, like, out of prison. So Izuku would be at school by that time, but yeah. Whereas Izuku went to a hospital straight, like, he was just admitted into the street and went to the hospital just because the kid was unconscious. They don't know what happened inside, but they know that the kid had something to do with it, and was also the cause of that intent. The police couldn't really say anything about Izuku because, let's say the surveillance cameras weren't working, they didn't actually have they didn't actually know what was going on inside the store. But yeah. After a few questions about what happened, Izuku was sent off, and yeah. Izuku then goes to his first day of UA high school. He stops outside, he does his usual stare up onto the building, the massive UA letters. Wait, am I correct? Was it a massive UA letters? I believe so. Well, whatever, however the school looks, he basically looks up at it. No, I don't think it looked like UA letters. I think it actually was like a proper Japanese school. But yeah, he looks up and he's just like, wow, this is my first year. I can't wait for what happens next. And he continues walking. A small point to make out is that Izuku keeps on finding the mask inside of his clothing, on his body, and sometimes it will even just wrap itself around his head. I've actually drawn this the mask I'm going to be giving him, but yeah, I don't have it at the moment. But for now, it looks half dragon, and the other half is a tiger. The dragon being green and the tiger being white. The reason for this is because the tiger is another heavenly beast, the white tiger, Banza or something. And yeah, that's the tiger side of Izuku's sword. However, this is also connoting that Izuku hasn't actually gained his true strength, due to the fact that, it's almost as if he has two separate powers, which he does. On one hand side, he's got his, Soul Reaper powers, and he's starting to tap into his Hollow powers. He even has his Cultivator powers. But on the other hand side, he doesn't have his Quincy powers. He still has a ton of his Hollow power he hasn't unlocked. He hasn't got his Fullbringer, his Final Form. He hasn't got his actual true named swords. He hasn't got the Bankai as well, or the actual name, the presently non-true name sword. But yeah. the point is, this mask shows how on one side he's got this all power and the wisdom, but on the other side he still hasn't got his true power, his lineage. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that. But yeah, the start actually goes quite similar to the original, except for the lack of blushing and Izuku being more upfront about things. And yeah, actually, scratch that. Izuku walks into the classroom and instantly feels something new within him. Although he's felt this a few times before, he hasn't gone out too much since the incident that had previously occurred. This meant that... oh my god, this has been going for like an hour already. But this meant that Izuku was basically more... actually, maybe not. This meant that Izuku... his senses were highly heightened, and he was able to sense that Aizawa was there pretty much instantly. He immediately heard Ida shouting, telling Baku to go off, and Baku was like, fuck off. I'm pretty sure he does actually say that. And they're like arguing, and Ida... Actually, no, Ida Ida mentions like, oh, you're the kid who managed to defeat... It was so powerful, like, congrats, and, like, he does that sort of thing, and Izuku's like, thanks, thanks for the gesture, I'm just gonna go sit down. Uraka be like, we lock eyes from across the room, down my drink, and I step across your mic. If you've heard that song, I'm not going to mention it just because, but yeah, you get what's going on here. The point is, they basically, she sees him, and she goes to go over to him, and he's just like, he's already sitting down, and she's like, hi, it's me, Uraka, and he's like, oh yeah, what's up? Are you okay from what happened? And she's like, yeah, I'm fine, how about you? He's like, I'm fine. Actually, you should probably sit down, the teacher's here already. No one else other than them hears this, so Araka's like, oh, how'd you know? Oh, he's over there, behind the desk. He's actually, I'm pretty sure, sleeping from his breathing patterns. And she's like, what happened to you? And he's like, what do you mean? And she's like, I can obviously tell that something's happened. I can tell because, previously, although you were really powerful, you couldn't really sense what was going on around you. I almost got hit multiple times by that robot, by multiple things, whilst you were fighting that robot. And he was like, sorry about that. She was like, don't worry, but still, I was just mentioning. Anyway, he was like, due to something that happened with my quirk, because it's still developing, seemingly, I could feel the teacher sitting there. And she's like, that's pretty cool. Oh, I'm going to go sit down now. And she tells some other people to sit down because apparently the teacher's already here. And they're like, what? Whatever, Raka. I'll just listen to you and your new boyfriend, is what Mina says. She's like, shut up. And, that usual thing. And then the teacher's like, well, it's good for one of you to at least, two of you to at least notice me. Anyway, all of you shut up and sit down. Basically, that's just Aizawa appearing. Everyone's like, except for, of course, Ochaka, Izuku, and a few people who really did believe Uraka. But yeah. He then does his usual routine of telling everyone to get into the sports uniforms, with, of course, Uraka being like, but we need to go to the entrance, don't we need to go to the entrance thing? And she's like, I don't really care, and explains all the UA rules, and they're like, and then it moves along. When in the changing rooms, Mineta doesn't even get a chance to do the peeking hole thing, and instead, Izuku basically, as soon as he walks into the room, puts blue tack there. But yeah. Then Izuku like as he's like getting into the clothes, Kirishima notices that Izuku has like a ridiculously buff body. Like, although he's like really slim, because he's based around agility more so than he is around like bulk and like proper strength. He basically has like a really toned body. And like Kirishima's like, holy shit, dude, you're really manly. And he's like, oh, thanks. I've actually been working on this body for like quite a while now, actually. I do kendo, and I've had some recent extra training. And he's like, damn, I'm really jealous. Like, I thought my body was good, but damn, yours is... I would probably be gay. And he's like, ha 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 ha. Yes, alright, I don't swing that way. And he's like, no, I was just kidding. But I am a bit jealous. Because I'm trying to be a manly man. Yeah, Kirishima kind of goes a bit to his, like, manly backstory. Like, in a way. And, yeah. So, yeah, then Minasa's like, asshole. But, yeah. I think the other guys just talk to Izuku a bit more whilst they're changing, and yeah, moving on to the actual, tests. The whole thing with Aizawa like explaining the rules of how they need to get through all these things and do these things, and then he explains how they are told to have to use their quirks for each. They should use their quirks for each thing, and how. And then after, like, one of them makes a comment on how this is going to be so easy and how, like, it's going to be fun, or a few of them do, he says, oh, you think this is all fun and games? The one who gets the worst gets well, he doesn't, I'm going to say this time, instead of saying disqualified, gets switched with a student from class 1B. And if they're really bad... They'll be like kicked from the school, or they will join an even lower class. This scares everyone, and yeah. Then he's like, Izuku, since you got the highest score, you need to show me. Could you do this? I can't remember what it's called. Do the bull throw, and Izuku's like, okay. He pulls up his like top a bit, and he kind of shows all the girls like his really muscular body, and like he has a few scars from like kendo training, and like they're all like, damn, that's nice. Izuku then lets his energy go through his arm, so his threads go through his like blood stream, but specifically in his arm, wrapping around it, and this causes it to shine slightly, shine a bit, and a bit green across his veins. They don't really people can see it, but they don't really understand. And then he gains like also a bit of a green sparking around his arm. I don't know if it actually is visible, but his usual green lightning thing around his arm, or electricity around his arm, he gets that. And this, boosts, actually this whole thing boosts him up to around 250 strength. The only reason why it isn't higher is just because I realised my mistake, because I said he would be more agility based. I also realised that based on the fact that his body is increased so much, I wouldn't be surprised if he can use 50% of his power. So I'm just going to make it so that, let's say, for him to use 50% of his power, he's right now on 30%. I'm going to say that it's a lot harder for him to get powerful because of how, how this quirk has changed to his quirk. But yeah. He then, using all of this, he grits his teeth, and he's like, you know what, I'm just going to use a bit more of that red power. And they all see, red mist start to pour out of his arm. And this isn't, all of this is in a matter of seconds, a second or two. And basically, he then gains a bit of an aura, the red mist becomes more fiery, although they don't really feel like the killing intent he made previously, there's still a bit of it. It's making them want to not be close to him, but also be really interested in him. But yeah. He then, is like, can I go now, sir? And that he's like, oh, whatever. And basically, Aizawa is like, holy shit, this kid's powerful. He may break the ground around him and make an air barrier just from doing this. But because I want to see his true limits, I'm gonna let him do this. And he absolutely yeets it. And it ends up in space. He throws it so hard that it basically just goes in a straight line, like tons of miles, directly into space and a bit further, and it just starts orbiting the Earth. From now on, Ball is orbiting the Earth. New UFO sighted. But yeah. As I was like, oh, damn, you're a really powerful kid. You got infinity. Everyone's like, wait, he just managed to make that ball go out of the atmosphere. Uraraka's like, I mean, I could probably do it while I quirk because of the fact that I can make things float and make them zero gravity. But this guy just used physical strength. I mean, sure, he used his quirk, but damn! Like, how much stronger has he gotten? So yeah. They all, note this down, how powerful he's gotten. Bakugo gets really angry at this, but, he understands that he was already in a situation where Izuku was stronger. He's developing really quickly. Izuku's, takes note of his own power and thinks, you know what, next time if I'm ever in a situation like this, I think I'll just use, I'll just use one of the things. I'll either just use my one for all. I'll just use key circulation, or just use the red mist, or as I shall now name it, blood mist, because of how much it makes me more menacing. So I will say that the other one is cool mist, or I don't know, iron mist or something. Anyway. Moving on, everyone else gets the exact same scores that they did originally. When it comes to their situations, it's just that Izuku gets first place in everything. Reason being, because his quirk is literally suited for anything related to physical tasks, in the sense that he will definitely be able to... Actually, no, in the running thing, he ties with Ida. The reason being is because he doesn't use his full power. Also because he felt bad because he knew that he'd be able to pass everything else really easily, because he didn't really understand other people. But he could tell that this kid's speciality was speed, so he kind of wanted to be kind. Ida was yes, I managed to draw with this guy who was so ridiculously powerful, and yeah. Continuing on, yeah, Izuku gets first place in everything. Izuku, of course, being first place, everyone else's order is the exact same, and Minato drops to class 1B, just because I don't feel like he should go any further, because he does have a pretty powerful quirk, depending on how he uses it. And of course, the original person who was going to become class president for 1B becomes a 1A student. Just because everyone, even Monoma, is like, yeah, you should be part of class A. And, you know, she's like, thanks, this will help my education and stuff. And yeah, I feel like she's going to be really good friends with Ida. Of course, Monoma is being tsundere. He's like, I won't miss you. Because even though they've only seen each other for a day or two maybe, as well as the rest of the students, they still feel sad that she's leaving. Because I'm going to say that this happens a day after. The metal guy, I'm going to say he has some other friends in that class who he basically just starts crying with. And yeah. She gets a pretty warm welcome to leaving. Sadly, Mineta arrives and he's greeted by the menacing faces of hatred from everyone else in the class. like the girls, the boys, the person who's supposed to be like American or whatever, like they're all just so angry at him. So yeah, continuing on. Izuku. Everyone welcomes like the new class president. Mineta everyone was like, "See you later, Mineta. I hope you do really well." Like, you know, they give him a goodbye, like just to show him that, you know, although he was pretty annoying, they didn't really mind him, and he was kind of thankful for this, because he knew kind of how he was acting, but yeah, I mean, I kind of feel bad for him in a way, but yeah, he sucks anyway. So, I think I'll conclude this episode here for today. I hope you guys really enjoyed. I had really fun making this, and I hope you do like the video, subscribe, whatever. But yeah, see ya.